Let's continue our discussions of Shabbat. Let's just recap some very important ideas when it comes to some words. We're going to look at different expressions of Shabbat. Saki, you can be in the camera, don't worry. I know there's people there. Let's start by talking once again about the idea of malacha. Somebody please give me a definition of malacha when it comes to Shabbat. Malacha when it comes to Shabbat. How do you define the idea of malacha? It should be different to how we defined it at the beginning of last class. Yeah?
Creative work.
Creative work. Creative work is a much better, or creative labor it's called. And how do we know what it means? What did we say? How do we know what it means?
Because of the Mishkan.
Because of the Mishkan. Very, very good. It was creative actions in the Mishkan. And if you remember, we went through all the, we missed out last class? Something fascinating. We listed a number of the things that were located in the Mishkan. Remember that? Mm-hmm. We did the menorah, we did the Aron, we did the Mizbeach. Remember those items? What did you put on the Mizbeach? What went on the Mizbeach, on the altar? Meat. What was in the Aron? Torah. What was the menorah for? To bring spiritual light. They used to pour wine on the altar. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Where do we see all these things? On the Shabbat table. They had lechem hapanim, 12 loaves of bread. So all the items that were in the Mishkan actually can be found on the Shabbat table as well. It's not a coincidence. The two are related. Good? So the Mishkan is going to represent the home, the spiritual home we create for God. How do we know? It is a pasuk in the Torah. Look on page 42, halfway down. Just look at that one pasuk, a very important pasuk. Remember that every pasuk of the Torah must be learned and understood and appreciated. The Torah says, Ba'asu li mikdash. This is God commanding the Jewish people to make for me a holy place. V'shochanti betocham. Betocham. Halfway down, page 42, note number 1. Can you see it? It's from Shemot 25:8. Chaf Hei Chet. That's what it says in the book of Exodus. You should make for me a holy place. And now I'm going to dwell betocham. Now the word betocham.
What piece?
Betocham. I'm going to dwell betocham. Betocham can mean two things. This is God telling us to make a Mishkan so He can dwell betocham. Betocham can mean one, in it. I can dwell in it. That means you can have a place where you can come visit me, says Hashem. Remember this eventually in the Beit HaMikdash, yeah? But betocham could also mean, and we know betocham means in you. I can dwell, live in it, and in you. So if you want God to reside inside you or inside us as the people, we need a Mishkan. So God created a world that we can live in, and that we were told to create a world that God should live in. And that was the Mishkan. So now we're going to take that one second, we're going to take that idea and transpose it onto Shabbat. Right? Because the two are together. And we can say that we create a world in this world called Shabbat that we make. Va'asu et Shabbat. La'asot et Shabbat. You have to make Shabbat. You make it by preparing and buying and celebrating. You're not doing any malacha. Remember? So by doing all of that, we create a world that Hashem can reside in us and in our homes. Are we together on this? Are you following the path? Very important. That pasuk is important. I would highlight it. Yeah, hand up over here first.
What's dwell?
Dwell is to live, to reside. Dwell means to live. Yeah. Dwell is to live, to reside. And that is the mitzvah from the Torah to create a Mishkan, which eventually, when the Jewish people went to the land of Israel, they built a permanent, well, King Solomon was the first one to build a permanent Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. Yeah. So we have both together. Now we do not have a Mishkan or a Beit HaMikdash today. So where is our holiness found? How do we get this B'tocham? And the answer is on Shabbat. Yeah. Shabbat becomes the place where Hashem dwells and lives. So the word malacha never, ever refers to, good morning, never refers to physical labor only, physical work, like carrying a book from inside your home to outside your home, from Reshut Yachid to Reshut Harabim, is not physically hard work, but it is considered malacha. Okay? So malacha is creative work. You're creating something. Okay? And that is why it was forbidden. Phones off, please. That's why it was forbidden to make. You could not make the Mishkan on Shabbat. Right? You cannot make the Mishkan on Shabbat. It makes sense, right? Because it says, Lo ta'asu malacha. You cannot do malacha on Shabbat. Which means you cannot do these 39 things that were done to make the Mishkan. Are we all clear? You need to have this very clear, because now we're going to look at what these 39 rules are. Yeah.
Okay, so Hashem said, like, if you build a Mishkan, he'll like live amongst the Jews, but like now instead, because since we don't have a Mishkan,
we don't have a Mishkan.
So now we do Shabbat. But didn't they have Shabbat back then?
They had both. They had a double whammy. Yeah.
So why don't we have both now?
Because we did not. Well, the temple was destroyed because of because of our sins. We missed out. It's a bad thing. That's why we have Tisha B'Av, right? To commemorate and to mourn over the destruction. Destruction of the temple is the worst thing that happened to the Jewish people in world history. Terrible. Both temples are destroyed, right? First one by the Babylonians, second temple by the Romans. Yeah? So this is a terrible, terrible tragedy that happened to our people. Actually, we say we are partly responsible for allowing it to be destroyed. Yeah.
Do you think it's going to get rebuilt?
It is going to, I think. I know. It's like, oh, when? I can't tell you. Soon. When Mashiach comes, one of the proofs that Mashiach is Mashiach, one of the proofs that he is Mashiach, is that, according to the Rambam, is that he builds the third and final temple in Jerusalem.
Why can't we just start building it in Israel?
Well, first of all, if you try to build it right now in Har HaBayit, you'll make World War III and World War IV happen. Just going up onto Har HaBayit right now, you're not allowed to pray up there. Let alone build a... They do. They walk around it, but they're not allowed to pray up there. Right? The Waqf makes that a law, and actually Israeli law enforces it, which is completely insane. Right? It's our country and our Temple Mount, and it will be rebuilt at the right time. It has to be the right time and the right way, but it is going to happen. That's a given. That's a postulate. Yeah.
Were the first two destroyed in the same day, like the same time?
Yes, Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, the first and second temple. That's right, at the same date, not the same year, hundreds of years apart, obviously. But yeah, on the same time, Tisha B'Av. It's a big problem. Probably many other things happen to Jewish people on the 9th of Av. In my holidays class next year, we'll go through a whole list of things. Up to the modern age. Auschwitz opened on the 9th of Av.
What?
The Jewish people were exiled from Spain in 1492 on the 9th of Av. Many other things happen. That's a very bad day for the Jewish people. One of the reasons we mourn and fast on that day.
I heard that like if you have like a court case or something like that, you should.
That is absolutely true. You should try to push it off, not do the 3 weeks. Wait till after Tisha B'Av. Yeah, that is absolutely true. That is a minhag of the Jewish people. Yeah. Yeah.
You said that all the items on the Mishkan are on the Shabbat table, so like...
Well, not all of the items. I said the many of the items in the Mishkan you can see represented during Shabbat, right? Many of the things you can see represented on Shabbat. There's salt. Everything was salted. We put salt on the table. There was always a yain nesach. They used to pour wine. We put wine on the table. The bread. I mean, you can see it reflected. It's not an exact science, but you see it reflected in the Mishkan. Do you have all this all down? Okay. Very, very good.
When did you say you have to push your trial?
What?
You
Push
were
my
talking
child?
about no, your trial. Court
Trial.
trial.
During the 3 weeks.
I also
Of
want to push my
Of what
Push
day?
my child. They meant my child. They pushed me.
No, but of what like festivity?
Before Tisha B'Av.
for 3 weeks.
Before Tisha B'Av. During
Why?
the 3 weeks. Or maybe the 9 days actually, maybe we're accurate, yeah. Because it's a negative spiritual time for the Jewish people. You have to be careful. There's certain times of the year that a negative time for the Jewish people. There are good times for the Jewish people, and sometimes are negatively impactful for our people. And 9th of Av is one of them. Actually, the first of Tisha B'Av, by the way, was, anybody know when the first of Tisha B'Av, and what happened on it? What? Nope, it was one before then. Way before then, actually. The spies came back from Israel at the time of Moshe Rabbeinu with a bad report, and we accepted, we cried all night. And Hashem said, oh, you're going to cry over going to the land of Israel? I'll give you a reason to cry for. And that became the first ever Tisha B'Av. Okay, fine. So let's go through the 39 melachot. Now, you're not in my Laws of Shabbat class, you have to memorize all 39. But we're not going to do that today. We're going to just go through the headings of them. Because we know there are Lamed, Tet, 39 melachot. Now, these 39 are not found in the Torah, in the 5 books of Moses. Only one of the 39 is mentioned specifically in the Bible, in the Torah. I don't know which one of the 39 is mentioned. We mentioned it last class. Right, Lot Varo Eish Moshe. You should not make a fire. We said because fire is so prominent. Everything we wear, everything we eat is prepared through fire. Okay? And that is why it is a mitzvah to eat hot food, because there were Karaites out there, who I mentioned, the Karaim, who said, this whole oral Torah that gives us details, irrelevant. We only believe in the written Torah. And they sat in the dark, miserable, eating cold food all the Shabbat, right? So we said that's a very, very bad thing. But the other 38, and this one too, were found in the Mishnah and the Gemara. Okay? So let's list them off. And we're going to divide, well, I'm not going to divide them. They are divided into 4 groupings. 4 groupings, okay? So let's do them together. 1 through 11, yeah, are the groupings of bread. All things, right, that are needed to produce bread. Why bread? Where was bread in the Mishkan? Where was bread in the Mishkan? There was lechem hapanim, the 12 breads that were in the Mishkan all week on racks, on the shulchan, on the table in the Mishkan. Okay? So what is that? Well, let's go through it. Choresh, plowing. You got to plow the ground. Then you got to put in the seeds. That's zoreah. Then kotzer, you got to reap. Then you got to gather the wheat. Then you got to thresh it. Then you got to separate the bad stuff out. You got to select it, borer. Then you got to grind it so it becomes flour. Then you sift it, get rid of all the schmutz. Then you knead it with water that's kneading, and then you bake it or cook it. Okay? Those are the 11. Now these are titles. These are titles. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to give you an act, and you're going to tell me where and if it appears in that first 11. Are you allowed to cook an egg on Shabbat. That means taking a raw egg. By the way, each one of these you can study for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I do the laws of Bishul, which is just number 11 actually. And I sit on that one for like 2 weeks, just trying to figure out what's going on. There's a lot written on this, but just on the basic thing. Can you take an egg, crack it open, put it in a pan, and cook it on Shabbat?
No.
Which malacha is that? Ofer, baking, right? Which includes bishul, cooking as well. Okay? So the first thing you do when it comes to laws of Shabbat is, where does it say you can't do it? Right? Which malacha? You're always trying to find the original malacha. Now sometimes there's rabbinic laws that go with it, and sometimes there's not. So that's a lot more to go, but always it's got to stem from malacha. Can I take, we mentioned last class, you're not allowed to take raisins out of a bowl of raisins and peanuts if you don't want the raisins. You're not allowed to take out raisins from a bowl of peanuts and raisins, for example. Which malacha is that?
Is it borer?
It is borer, very good.
Separate.
Selecting, right. Right, Pesot, from ochel, things you don't want, from that which you do want, because that's the way it was done in the Mishkan.
Is it only for reasons?
No, anything. I'll give you an example. I can't give you every example here, right? Now, anytime there's two foods that are mixed together and you don't want one of them, and you remove that which you don't want from that which you do want.
I've never heard that before.
I know, that's borer, that's a malacha of Shabbat, yeah. That is a malacha of Shabbat, absolutely, Vera.
But if you take the
In fact, you haven't heard it before, means you're in the right place in my class, sister, right? Yeah. Yeah.
If you take the one that you want.
Then it's okay, because that's not the way it was done. The way it was done in the Mishkan was that which you don't want. So if you do what you do want, it's not the way it was done, and that's permitted. Remember, you're not allowed to do what was done in the Mishkan. Okay, here's a tricky one. Ready for this?
You're
Here's a
not
tricky
allowed
one.
to do what was done in the Mishkan.
You're not allowed to do what was done in the Mishkan. That's the further away you are from what was done in the Mishkan, when you learn the laws of Shabbat, you're actually learning the laws of the Mishkan. This is what you go through. You go through the 39 malachah. Okay? Once again, let's show. Once again, my darling. Here we go. Next one. Here's you want a difficult one?
Yeah.
Where does it say you cannot water your grass on Shabbat? Oh, that's difficult.
Making something grow.
Where does it say that? So actually, yeah, it's probably zorea. Zorea means sowing or putting seeds in the ground. You're not allowed to take a seed and put it in the ground on Shabbat. But it's not only that actual act, that's called the original way it was done. Even if you do something which leads to the same result by watering your grass or your soil, although it's a completely different act, the results are the same. You're promoting growth. Get it? It is also forbidden. So things you're not allowed to do may not even look like the way they were done. It just has the same effect. Are we clear? Leisha, what's on your mind, sister?
Does the selecting apply to like other things than food?
It does apply to other things that are not food. And knives and forks, right? And, things that are mixed up. But there's many other laws. It's got to be two different types. It has to be small, have to be mixed in together. So there's many caveats that go with it, which I can't go into in this class because we'd be here all day and I don't have all day. I have a social life. Yes.
Is it bad if you get salad and then you separate tomato or something?
If you don't want it and you're taking it out of the mixture, then it's a problem, señorita. You can only take out things you do want. But if they're all mixed in and you're taking out things like that, but there's other ways you can do it.
Can you just leave it in and leave it to the end?
Absolutely. Then you're not separating. You just leave it.
Forgetting.
No, you're just leaving it there. Okay, that's the first group. So the first group has everything to do with bread. You'll notice these four groups, these four categories you have to learn and memorize, okay? So I'm not making you do all 39. You're welcome. But these four categories you do need. Annie, can you see the board from where you are, my darling?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Good.
Wait, sewing, selecting, baking.
So now, that's 1 through 11.
Oh.
Now, so that's, the category is bread. Right? Because these are the things that were done in order to create bread in the Mishkan. You got it? Happens to be the 12 things you need to do in order to make bread, even today. Now we have 12, through 24. And that, my dear friends and students, are everything to do with woolen garments. Woolen garments. Okay? Why? Because there was wool that was needed for the Mishkan. What wool was there in the Mishkan? What wool was there in the Mishkan? Garments is clothing. Yeah? What wool was there? Yeah?
The curtain?
There were various curtains that were made of wool and they were colored with beautiful designs. Okay? By the way, as a sign that these first 11 also include various plants that were sown, grown, crushed in order to make dyes. Various colors for the Mishkan, so make it very beautiful. Okay, fine. So this is all to do with the woolen garments. So we have, so where'd you get wool from? Sheep, very good. Or goats, actually, yeah, but sheep. So first you have to shear, and then you have to bleach it, then you comb it, then you dye it, then you spin it, and you weave it, and all the processes until you end up with beautiful, amazing wool garments, okay? So let's go through this one, shall we? I'll name an act, and you tell me if it's forbidden or not. Are you allowed to tie a knot on Shabbat of any form? So a permanent knot, like a professional knot, not a shoelace. A shoelace is okay, because that's only temporary. Remember, every melacha was done long term, to last, to last. When they tied something down, they wanted to make it tight so it could last forever. But if you make a knot that is not going to last forever, a temporary knot, like tying your shoelaces, that's going to be okay. Unless you tie your shoelaces to last forever, which you don't, because you want to undo it, right? And take them off. So the knot over there is number, look inside your, look at the list, 21. Tying a knot. And that's going to include all knots, okay? That is that, like professional, hard knots. Kosher shel umnut, and has to be mitkayem, that would last a long time. Olivia?
I thought they weren't doing permanent.
In the Mishkan they were. They wanted it to be a permanent tie knot. Now they undid them. They did. You can undo a knot, yeah. They did undo them in order to disassemble, but they wanted it to last as though it would last for a long time. Really more than 24 hours is how we define it. 24 hours. And when they built the Mishkan, they could remain for 1 day, 1 month, 1 year, 10, 12 years. Sometimes they remained in the same place for decades. Okay, so that's the way it was done. For more than 24 hours.
When they were doing it, they knew it was temporary.
They did, but temporary could still last for 10 years. So that's considered permanent. So more than 24 hours is how we define permanent and not temporary. Okay? Great, let me give you another one. Okay, you want a tough one? Are you allowed to cut your nails on Shabbat? Are you allowed to cut your nails or your hair on Shabbat? Don't just say no, you gotta say, what's the malacha? You gotta find the malacha. Always goes back.
Is it tearing?
It is not tearing.
Is it combing wrong?
It is not combing. It is gozes, shearing. Shearing. Can you see shearing over there? Yeah. Number 12. That's shearing. By the way, there's a very, I want you to think about this. This is a difficult question. This is a lot more technical. There is a very, sorry, could you close the door, please? Thank you so much. There is a very big difference between the shearing over here and you cutting your hair. Can you think, it's a difficult question. I don't expect you to know this one, but let's see how smart you are. There happens to be a very big difference between shearing wool from a sheep. I mean, besides obviously it's a sheep and we're humans, but besides that, shearing wool from a sheep and cutting your hair. Can you think of the difference over here? Can you think of the difference, Leia?
Don't you need to like shear a sheep so it like doesn't burn? You don't think it's like for its
Okay, well, so it doesn't cut the hair because it overheat either.
But like,
There's something in the actual, let's look at the purpose. The purpose or benefit.
you're using it to
To enhance your look.
Who knows? Maybe you're shaving enough to look terrible. Who knows? Right? Like I took my son yesterday. I really did, for a haircut. Right? And I know when I cut my son's hair, it's not just for him. It's for his sisters who come and be like, "Oh, that's too short, Abba. What did you do? Why'd you do this?" So I have to think about them as well, right? So it's nothing's a guarantee. I really did take him a haircut yesterday.
No, but it was.
Think about the purpose. What's the purpose of cutting? This is technical, but it's really important. The laws of Shabbat. What's the purpose of cutting wool from sheep? You cut it because you want the wool. Why do you cut your hair? Because you don't want the hair that's been cut off, right? That difference, by the way, is actually really important. It's called a malacha she'ein stricha legufa. You have no idea what I just said, but that's okay. You will one day. Malacha is you don't need the body of the act. In the end, it's a little bit academic because you still can't cut hair, but cutting hair happens to be different to cutting, but cutting nails. Why'd you cut your nails? Because you don't want your nails that's being cut off. But you cut off the wool because you did want it. So it's a little different. And actually it has a halachic, a Jewish legal difference, that if a woman needs to cut her nails for a mitzvah, she would be permitted to find a non-Jewish person to cut her nails. Like she wants to go to the mikvah on Friday night, right? She would be permitted. So you got to figure out, it's not just the malacha, you got to figure out what's the purpose, what's the intention, how is it done? Then, now it gets very, very complicated. Yes, Olivia?
Sorry. Are you allowed to then, when people donate their hair?
Yes.
So
Oh, that'd be
allowed to
interesting.
do it on
If the
Shabbat?
person cut their hair to donate it, they cut it because they want it, it would be probably worse to cut your hair on Shabbat for a positive. Very good. That'd be an example of a positive, probably worse for that reason than just cut it because you want to throw it away. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, during the week, it's a big mitzvah. Only on Shabbat we're talking. That's why I do my hair.
Oh, so you
Why do you think I have no hair? I donate it every
So
week.
you can't cut it on Shabbat.
You cannot cut your hair on Shabbat at all. Question is, what's a prohibition? And it's a little bit different from the original malacha. Yeah? But in the end, you cannot. It's mainly academic. But with nails, there is room for leniency. Fine. So that's the first one. Oh, let me see. Good. Let's do the next grouping, okay? This is 25 to 31. So 25 to 31. And this is number 1, yeah? Are you with me, guys? Come on.
Yeah.
Number 3. What's number 3? This is the order of animal hides. Animal hides. Right? Animal hides, or I guess you call it skin of animals or leather. Right? Anything to do with leather. So, we're going to include in this all the laws of animal products. Right? You want meat. Are you allowed to kill a cow on Shabbat?
No.
Don't just say no. Tell me the malacha.
Shochet.
Shochet, that's right. Slaughtering. Are you allowed to trap? First you got to catch the animal, right? Are you allowed to catch an animal on Shabbat?
Sad.
That's called sad. Very good. Trapping. So all of these laws involve all meat, from catching it to preparing the skins for various things. Like you're wearing leather or fur, that had to be caught, trapped, and all the rest of it. Okay?
Wait,
and that's
tanning?
Oh, tanning is not your skin. Tanning is you tan hides, right? You have like black leather shoes and white leather. They tanned it, they colored it. It means coloring.
Okay.
Right, yeah. Tanning your skin is something else. That's sovea, that's coloring. Okay, fine. So the final grouping is 32 to 39.
What does it say beside animal?
Animal hides, i.e. leather, or also meat as well is included in that, yeah? Because there was meat in the Mishkan, they had meat animals, yeah? What's 22 to 39? 32 to 39 is everything to do with building. All buildings is the final 4th grouping. Okay? Friends, you're going to need these 4 groupings. Building. Okay? So we have Well, how do you build? Well, first of all, you need plans. How do you make plans? How do you make a blueprint? What do you use? What do you use? Pen. Right? And do you want that pen writing to last a short amount of time or a long amount of time? Long. Right? You don't have to wipe away because you're going to need these blueprints for a while. Right? It's not a temporary writing. It's a permanent writing. Okay? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Anybody have sneakers or shoes with letters on the sole?
Yeah, wait.
And you're walking around on the beach, and as you step, you make an imprint that says Adidas or Nike or what else? I'm writing. Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to do that?
Yeah.
But it says you can't write.
Temporary.
It's temporary, very. And it's not your intention. If your intention was to leave a message somewhere and make that print that's going to last a long time, then that would be a problem.
I thought you can't make like an indentation in the sand. Like some communities don't even like play soccer because you're
That's not in sand, that's in mud or dirt. And there's a difference because, very good. I actually learned this with someone yesterday online. Because you grow things in dirt, you don't grow things in sand. So sand is not a problem.
You're unintentionally.
So first of all, sand itself, nothing grows in it, right? So it's not under the laws of plowing, right? You don't plow sand with stuff and nothing grows in it. But even so, you can walk on dirt and leave a message, and leave a print because it's temporary and it's not even your intention. Your intentions count when it comes to the laws of Shabbat, okay? So we have writing, what?
Where it was a pencil, that's also temporary.
No, it's not. Pencil writing lasts a long time.
You can erase it.
Oh, look at number 2. What's number 2?
Erasing.
Erasing.
Because
That's
it's
a
a
problem.
permanent erase.
Can't erase either. Even if it's a permanent. And once this is finished off, we have bona, building. We have soser, demolishing. Machabe, extinguishing. Mavir, lighting a fire. Why is fire in the building category? Why is fire in the building category? Mavir, Habara. Where?
From a fire. You're building
So what?
fire.
Because, well, making a fire is forbidden, that's the matter. But what's it doing in the building category?
Charcoal.
Huh? Everything you build had to go through a heat process. You make bricks. Heat was involved in that. Right? You make wood. Right? All these things needed some kind of, well, maybe not wood, but a lot of things that we use. So Mavir is in the building category, but it's also forbidden to use a fire, even to make a fire, to make food or building or anything else. Fire, as we said, that's the only one that's mentioned. Yeah.
Why can't you play piano or guitar? It's like
Very, very good. Actually, there's no malacha. You cannot play piano or guitar.
Oh.
It's not listed.
What about electricity?
1 second. So piano, guitar. So if it's not electrical, it's not electrical, piano, guitar. The answer is, those are rabbinic instructions that we're told not to do. Because they're like, listen, you may come to fix it, and fixing it's forbidden, right? You may come to put it together.
Like tune it, you mean? Like,
Oh, isn't that why
Tune
you
it
ride a
or
bike?
Mhm.
It's made break.
Now, a bike happens to be, I can't go into it too much, not part of that at all. Halachically, you probably are allowed to ride a bike within a Neiruv if you're not carrying. You are actually allowed to do it. And there were many communities, I won't say many, there were communities in the Sephardic world that did. So riding a bike is definitely not one of the 39 malachot. No one says it is. Some say it's a weekday activity, we don't do it. But what's the difference between riding a bike and pushing a stroller? Both are wheels. They come into contact with the ground, and we push strollers.
And
So
what
the
if you
answer
don't-
is,
What if you don't ride a bike during the week?
it's not about you. These laws aren't always made about individuals, they're made about the
Like
community. How do we do it? So in Iraq, right, they say, right, back in the late 1800s, the Jewish community over there, we used to ride bikes. Well, not we, I wasn't there, I'm not Iraqi. But they did used to ride bicycles. There's actually nothing. And they say, oh, you're making a groove in the ground. It's not my intention, right? And it's not a groove, I'm flattening, I'm not plowing. That's why you are allowed to push a stroller, right, on dirt. Unless you're using the stroller to make a furrow to put seeds in. Then your intention is forbidden. Are you following? So intention is a big thing. Yeah.
Are we allowed to go to the pool?
Are you allowed to swim on Shabbat?
Yeah.
First of all, I know, I'm asking you a question. Is it now one of the 39 malachot? Look inside. You have a book on you, look inside. Is it one of the 39 malachot?
no.
It's not. So what's the problem with it?
You can.
You can.
So, just because it's not in this 39 list, that doesn't mean it's permitted, because rabbinically we have a lot of things that say don't do certain things. Okay? Rabbinically, some rabbis say, well, maybe you'll be swimming somewhere and you want to make something as a life raft, right? They're not. There are Sephardi poskim, I believe Rav Yosef, he writes somewhere, which I saw, that a swimming pool may be different from the ocean. And we'll say, yeah, if you want to swim in you'd have to go to a mikvah, right? So you have to enter. Sometimes where your clothing gets wet. Well, you go outside, it's raining, it gets wet. Just don't squeeze it, right? That'll be it. So Sephardi poskim, some of them are lenient to say in a pool, it could be permitted. If the water doesn't overflow the boundaries of it, which doesn't happen in a pool for the most part, then it'll be permitted. So you'll see some Sephardi communities will allow swimming in a pool on Shabbat. Okay, that's your question? So you have to ask your L-O-R, the local Orthodox rabbi. Yeah.
I have 2 questions. Okay, so with the music thing, like the instruments, like, so what if you don't fix it?
Nothing to do with you. Remember, these laws, it's like me saying, why can't I go through a red light? I'll make sure no one's passing by. And the answer is, the laws are made not just for you, Esther, they're made for the entire Jewish people. It's like American laws. You know, I'll be different. I'll go through the red light, but I'll make sure there's no one coming. I can see no one's coming, and you're still going to get a ticket. Why? Because the law is, you cannot go through a red light. That's the law. But I'm different. The laws aren't just made for Esther, they're made for everyone. Although you think they're made for you. They're not.
Okay, wait,
2 questions, I charge extra for extra questions. Yeah.
So I know, like, when you do the dishes, like, they say, like, you can't squeeze the sponge.
You should not use a sponge on Shabbat, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's chita, that is dash, that is squeezing.
But it doesn't say that here, does it?
Oh, just because it doesn't say it, doesn't mean it's not there. Right? They used to squeeze things called dash. If you find dash, can you see it? That includes, that's solids. There's a liquid version of dash that's called schita, and that is forbidden on Shabbat.
I don't see it. Oh, wait.
Yes, Leah, sure, you'll find a sister.
What is the validity of the rabbinic law? Like how?
There's it's not a matter of validity. All of Judaism, we are a rabbinic religion. The Torah is given as a written Torah, and as an oral Torah, Torah bichtav and Baal Peh. Because the Karaites, right, who don't exist anymore, except for me, I'll tell you, a bunch of hippies in California, who aren't even halachically Jewish, because they accept patrilineal descent.
What is that?
We believe that you're Jewish if your mother's Jewish. They believe, no, if your father's Jewish, or even if your cousin's Jewish or something.
Oh God.
Yes, I've got his mind. So it's all from the Gemara, our entire religion. The Torah is given with a written and an oral explanation of it. Yeah.
So it's like...
Shh. Guys. Yeah.
So is using electricity also like a rabbinic?
Very good. Why are you not allowed to use... That's a good one. Look through this at 39 and tell me now. There's 2 possibilities. 2 possibilities where you can... Because electricity did not exist. I'll give you a great chidush of the Chazon Ish, a great rabbi lived in Israel in the last century. He gives a very interesting answer. How do we figure out you can't use electricity? Because there was no electricity in the Mishkan, right? So where can we see it? Yeah?
Light a fire.
Fire. Okay, that's one. Because you're heating up the electricity. Can you find another one, Mackenzie? Very good. How do you know that?
Completing the circuit.
You're completing it. Did I mention that before?
No.
How do you know that?
Wait, which one is it?
Books.
Well done. Right, yeah, okay. Unlike everyone else here, you read. Yeah, Bona.
Which one is that?
Look, building. Bona is building. You're complete. When you turn on a light, you're closing a circuit. So when you close a circuit, this is unusual. Either way, it's academic because you cannot turn on a light. But it's actually one of 2 possibilities. Making a fire. But someone says it's not a fire, it's electricity. It's not actual fire. Okay, there's a heat element, but sometimes there's not. LED lights don't go. So the answer is, you're closing a circuit, it's called building, yeah.
Okay, so there's these devices where you put on the light switch because there's like a level of indirectness to it so that you can turn off.
Okay, so I can't go, okay.
Oh, timer.
Okay, a timer is okay,
No.
because you're not doing malacha. That item you're talking about, I can't do it, I know built it, I'm friends with a guy, That's tricky. I can't get into that right now, but let's put it this way. Some people allow it, some people don't.
Okay, but also like with the whole like level of indirectness, when you turn on the tap,
Yeah.
like, you're causing like...
You cannot use the hot water faucet on Shabbat.
No, why can you not use hot water on Shabbat?
Because,
you use cold water because you're using
once again, because when you turn on hot water, think about the process, you're draining the hot water from the boiler. By doing so, automatically, cold water is now going into the boiler, and you, although it's indirect, you're still cooking. You're still cooking, and when you do that, you're making that cold water, because of your action, heat, potentially, because it could be that someone else turns on the force and makes that happen, go in and boil up. That's why you cannot fill a water urn on Shabbat directly or even indirectly. However, you are allowed to open your fridge on Shabbat, and you open the fridge, and the cold air goes out, and the hot air goes in, and it triggers off the electricity, because that's already not definite, and it's very indirect. It's like one part, which leads to it's called grama, it's causative. One thing causes something else, so that's permitted. You are allowed to open your fridge on Shabbat, although it may be triggering off the temperature. No, leaving the light. Obviously, the light has to be off, yeah.
But what about the like, just in general, like a water faucet? Because you're taking water from that. And
That's okay. No, that,
so
you know, that's not replacing. The water coming out's not the problem. They replace the water in cooking it.
I know.
You don't make hot water when you turn on the water.
No, just from the tap.
You're not turning on. You're not cooking water by turning on the cold faucet.
I'm not saying it's cooking.
Then why is it forbidden?
Because the sensor realizes that. Like,
What sensor? There's no sensor. You turn on.
Water system.
No, there's not. You turn on cold water. Cold water comes through the pipes, and that's it.
For the pipes, the whole system.
There's no electricity that is triggered by me turning on a cold water faucet.
But like to restore the pressure and everything.
That's very, very direct. It's not definite, and it's just cold water coming out of your pipes. It's not a problem. It's not a problem when it comes to hot water. Okay, fine. So there you have, we did more than I wanted on this, but that's good. These are 39 malachot, but you need to know your categories of them. And if you look at these categories, by the way, you notice we have everything. Building, where you live, your shelter, your food, your clothing, basically whether it's wool or whether it's animals and meat and cooking, every creative labor action is included in these 39. Okay? Any more questions on this? Yes, Mackenzie.
Like putting food in a fridge.
Yeah, what about it?
It's not bishul, but it's like preparing for after Shabbos, but it's fine.
No, that's fine. You may use it on Shabbat. That's not preparation for after Shabbat. And preparation for after Shabbat, called hachana, is a rabbinic thing. It's not a problem.
Even if I like wrap it up.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, let's do something else. The laws of Shabbat are important, but we have something called pikach nefesh.
What's that?
We have a number of expressions today. You better write this down. Don't come to me before the fun and be like, you never told me. Pikach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh. What is pikuach nefesh? What is this very important concept?
Something about the soul.
Yeah, what about the soul? You're right. That's what nefesh means.
It's when we are in danger.
Yes, we're in danger. So what do you do when you're in danger? You?
Break the rules.
In order to
Save a life.
save a life. So Shabbat is a very important mitzvah. However, people love this one more than anything else. You're allowed to save life. It's not one of the cardinal sins you have to give your life up for. It's not one of the things you have to give your life up for. Which means, when it comes to Shabbat, you can, actually I'm going to change can to must. It's not an option. So I'm going to get rid of can. I'm going to make it must. Break Shabbat to save a life. All the laws of Shabbat are suspended in order to say, by the way, even if you're not even sure if a person's life is in danger, No difference. No difference. We break the laws of Shabbat in order to save a life. Hence, we have this thing called Hatzalah. Hatzalah are Jewish paramedics who are breaking Shabbat in order to save a life. And that is a mitzvah. By the way, these people have done a mitzvah when they break Shabbat. They have done a mitzvah to break Shabbat. It is not, one second, it is an obligation. Not only that, let's say you have a room of 100 Jewish people. 99 of them do not keep Shabbat. And one does keep Shabbat. If there is a pikach nefesh situation, the most religious person in that room must make the call in order to get Hatzalah, call a doctor. They must. To show that this is a tremendous mitzvah. And the person that does break Shabbat to save life, my next door neighbor, works for Hatzalah. We've called him many times. And he comes and he drives my kids, because my kids, for some reason on Shabbat, always need to go through emergencies, falling off banisters, cutting themselves, you name it, they've done it. Right? Oh, just wait. Right? And therefore is a mitzvah. And he does not do teshuvah. Oh, I did a terrible sin after Shabbat. You cannot do teshuvah on Shabbat. Right? You don't need to. But after Shabbat, oh, I made a mistake. No, not at all. He did a great mitzvah. He's able to save a life. Let's look at the Shulchan Aruch so you can see it inside.
Too?
Yeah, absolutely. If a person has a life-threatening illness, even if you don't know if it is or isn't, we assume it is. Mitzvah. Look at the words inside. The Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, lived in Savat 400 years ago. Lechalel alav et Shabbat is a mitzvah to break Shabbat. V'hazariz, and the quicker you do it, the better. The better. Now, that's a very important point, because we only allow. Why can't you just get non-Jewish ambulances? We have non-Jewish ambulances, don't we? So we don't know. So the answer is, I hear. All things equal, better not have a Jew break Shabbat. But if they could do it faster, and we know that when it comes to medical issues, even a minute or a second makes a difference. So if you know in your town, which is pretty much always the case, where the Jewish ambulance gets you before the non-Jewish ambulance service, for Shabbat, you're allowed to use the Jewish ambulance service. Because every minute counts.
I heard that salah is actually much quicker.
It's always quicker, it has to be, or they wouldn't allow it. If you don't need it, you don't need it. Yeah? Get it, Esther? Makes sense, right?
Okay,
Mackenzie, 1 second, hand up there.
How does the Hatzalah guy go home?
Very, very good. Different communities, different way. One, most communities, they drive back themselves, because if they don't, no one would join that salah to be stuck in a hospital over Shabbat. So there you go. Or they have in Monsey, which is run by the Hasidic Vad, they have a non-Jew drive them home. So they're able to be prepared. What?
How do they get him?
They have two drivers. One drives the car, picks him up, brings the ambulance back or his car back, and takes him back home. And then these two drivers drive off. It's a system. It's all set up. Okay? So why do we know this is a mitzvah? Look inside. It's a very important pasuk. The pasuk tells us in the book of Vayikra, Leviticus Yudchet Hey 18:5, V'chai behem. You have to live to do the mitzvot. Hashem wants us alive, not dead. You'd be like, well, Shabbat's more important. Everyone should die if they get into lifetime. The answer is no. Hashem wants us to live. So from this pasuk, the rabbis learn out, V'chai behem, you have to save your life or another person's life for Shabbat. Okay?
Okay, so you can break Shabbat to save a life, but
Yes.
what if you can also break Shabbat to prevent to have to save a life?
Yes, to prevent. So if you see someone falling off a cliff, alright, you can go and save them. Well, that's exactly it. That's exactly what you're asking me. Just think about a cliff, right? Or I see a person's they're not so sick now. In 3 hours, do I wait for them to get really sick before I say? The answer is no. You could do something to prevent them. By the way, it's not just physical stuff. It's also psychological as well, right? If a person has a psychological problem, we consider that in Judaism as bad. Actually, in cases even worse, right? In order to, right? So in that case, you're allowed to do something now, although right now it's not so bad, but it will be bad in the future on Shabbat. So you can do something now in order to prevent it. You don't wait for it to fall off the cliff and be like, well, sorry, I'd like to fall off a cliff and drive there, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it makes sense? Good. Yeah.
The translation of pikach nefesh
is to save a life. Yeah.
What if like you do something to prevent, but like just to prevent like a cold?
No, that would not be life-threatening.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
a cold is not life-threatening. I know today it is. I got cold, I'm gonna die. No. Nice try. Yeah.
Okay, say like there was an accident in Shabbat and you're okay, but you know that your family heard about the accident and they live in another place and they're gonna be worried. Can you call them and tell them like I'm alive?
So they heard about it, probably not, but it's going to be maybe get a non-Jew to make the phone call potentially, or do something, go around and tell them. But no, that's not an active. Like had salah can drive to the hospital, but I'll turn the radio while I'm going. You can't do that because they come to the stereo and start like boogieing down, right? Well, I had a friend of mine actually, when he started his car, the radio started blasting.
Oh.
Right, because he had it on from before Shabbat. He's driving around Shabbat with the music blowing out of his window. Not good for a rabbi. Funny, but not good for a rabbi.
Could you go over briefly the laws of like taking medicine? Because like I can't.
Okay, there's no brief. There's no brief with that. It's okay. There's no brief when it comes to shchias hamamanim.
Taking medicine on Shabbat?
There are some medicines
and then
that, in circumstances, you're not allowed to take on Shabbat. Life-threatening, absolutely okay. But if you are very ill, right, like migraine, something really bad, but for just a general, that's a rabbinic injunction, which I can't go into right now. It's a gezerah of shchias hamamanim.
What if if I'm in an Arab and the trash smells really bad?
Nothing to do with Arab. It's nothing to do with carrying.
But like if I could
it's
take
to do
the
with
trash
grinding.
out to increase my Shabbos.
You're allowed to take it out, of course you want.
Yeah, so could I take an Advil to get rid of like...
It's not, the two are not comparable. It's like a different gezerah. I know you're going with this. Nice try. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't take Advil on Shabbat. Like,
If you're totally okay, you want to take because you have a mild, but if you have a bad headache or enough you need to lie down, then you can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
In a fast, I hear that pregnant women, they like do the fast like Yom Kippur or something like that with only drinks, like water.
Every 10 minutes you take a
Is it?
Well, a pregnant woman must. What's that got to do with Shabbat?
No, what I'm saying is it good if you like try your best, or if you're not
the
gonna
law
be
is.
able...
Well, it's always the try, but the law is you cannot eat on Yom Kippur.
No, but if you can't do it like
Then there's not
should
can't.
you?
Can is it because you are in a life-threatening situation? Then you can, and there's ways to do it. Yom Kippur, you take small amounts, but that's not because I'm thirsty. It's got to be really bad for you to drink. Yom Kippur, we don't mess with.
Okay.
You can mess with me, you can mess with Shabbat, but don't mess with Yom Kippur. Okay, fine. So Pekuach Nefesh spoke about 30 malachot, four categories. We're doing good today. One last piece. Okay, one more word. Let's go one more Hebrew word. Okay, so the perfect trifecta. So you can leave this class one day and say, wow, I learned so much from this crazy rabbi. The one to look at is what's called manuka. Manuka. Manuka means rest. Lanuach is to rest. There is a mitzvah on Shabbat to just be in a state of rest. Now let me explain what that means. Okay? Because this is not one of 39 malachot. Yeah. So what does that mean? So it's part of the zachor. Remember we said zachor versus shamor? Yeah. Zachor the positive, shamor the negative. Remember that? Those two words? Okay, I say it 5,000 times, people still don't know the final. I'll say it again. Zachor means to remember. How you remember about all the positive mitzvot. And we have it. So this is not part of, however, there's a mitzvah to actually be in rest. And that means you eat differently. Yeah? You even walk differently. You talk. Everything about your Shabbat, you should be a different person. You should not be the same. Okay? You're going to be a world of, and that's how you are able to. Now, one minute, what's the purpose of Shabbat? To bring you closer to Hashem. We said last class, it's God Day. So how do you do that? By being calm in a state of rest. In a state of rest, so that you can be involved in spiritual activities, because 6 days you're running around. On Shabbat, you have to learn Torah. Where do we see Torah in the Mishkan? Where do we see Torah in the Mishkan? In the Aron, in the Ark. There was a luchot in the first ever Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu, right? That's where it was kept. So we know that Torah is a big part of the Mishkan, the Beit HaMikdash, and of course, Shabbat. Okay, so that's a major, major part. So Hashem actually did create something on Shabbat. What did he create? Rest. Be in a state of rest and calm. Actually, you're not, this is a tough one. You shouldn't even argue on Shabbat. One opinion that the Torah says don't make a fire, the fire you're not to make is not just a physical fire, it's also a fire of argument, right? We say you're getting heated up. You shouldn't argue on Shabbat. You should be the case of shalom, calm, peaceful. And that's why the Yetzer Hara is going to come and wait till you have kids. And you're all at home and try to make fights and arguments. It's difficult. It's difficult, yeah.
You can't discuss business on Shabbat either.
You should not, right? Talk is different.
Yeah.
Even you're not to discuss business. Even those people who be like, I shouldn't talk about business, not Shabbos, but can I buy your car? Right? It's not going to work, right? Nitz Shabbos Garret, right? They say
what's the walking part?
Oh,
you better walk slowly. You shouldn't be running around. Walk slowly, dress differently,
what does it say?
eat differently. These are all parts of in the prophets. The Navi tells us you should act very differently. Yeah.
Wow.
Talk differently could be like trying to talk Hebrew the whole Shabbat.
Well, I don't know about that. There are people who, that's a mitzvah.
Because people say their Hebrew name in Shabbat, right?
Do they?
I know, I don't know.
I go by Lawrence on Shabbat.
I don't know, a lot of people do that.
There are people who do a Tanit Dibor.
On Shabbat?
On Shabbat, they will only say things that are holy. There are such people.
What
I mean,
is
that's
it?
a level.
God.
But there are people who will not discuss anything mundane. Imagine your synagogue. Imagine your synagogue in Great Neck. People don't, my goodness, can't even imagine that. Like, whoa. That ain't happening, sister.
they say like you can't plan on Shabbat.
You cannot plan on Shabbat after Shabbat. That's hachana. You're going to prepare things for Shabbat. You're going to do after Shabbat. That is correct. Unless you could get some benefit of it on Shabbat. Yeah.
Besides Shabbat, they say that going to
Wow.
going to the Bet Knesset is like also to incentive us to do business with each other off Shabbat.
No, that's during the week.
During the week.
During the week,
right?
not on Shabbat.
Yes, during the
Don't
week.
do business. Where are you from?
Is that real?
Panama?
Mexico.
Mexico, yeah. I gotta show. Gotta get a job. I gotta make a living. You know what I'm saying?
Oh wait.
Yeah. Maybe in Mexico. No, I'm joking. I'm kidding. No. It is forbidden to discuss business. During the week, people used to go to the Bet Knesset because they would meet and discuss. That's a mitzvah. On Shabbat, yeah, you can't do your business. Yeah.
But why? On
Or your
Shabbat-
monkey business, actually.
On Shabbat in the shul, like they do auctions. Like.
Oh, very, very good. So there is a tradition that many synagogues. Well, first of all, you're not actually paying that day. You're just making a pledge on Shabbat. If they take out a credit card on Shabbat, it's a problem, right? So you're not. No, it's not. That's fine. You're making a pledge, right? That in the honor of I'm going to pledge this amount of money. That's fine. Pledging is fine. Pledging is an ancient tradition that goes right back. We Jews, we need money. You know what I'm saying? So I want to pay for the rabbi's salary, keep the lights on. You know what I'm saying? So that's fine. Pledging is fine, but paying on Shabbat, you can't.
But isn't it like planning? Like I will.
No, I'm telling you right now, I will, in the merit of this money will be used there, I want to receive that's fine. That's fine and highly recommended. And I'm not just saying because I'm a rabbi and I make collections. Okay? Okay, let's stop over there because the next topic is going to be your soul and the lights of Shabbat. It's going to be next class, so very, very important. Next class will be on Tuesday. There is no class next Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. God willing, I'll be in England for the first time since my family since 2019. Actually.
Awesome.
Miss Hashem, God willing, inshallah.